Hey everyone, welcome to Disrupting the Real Estate Hegemony show. I'm your host, Matt Marsh, founder of Marsh Partners. And this show is really a series of interviews with disruptors in the real estate industry. And I sat down with Andrew Gibson, founder of Pakira. We chatted a little bit about his founder and entrepreneurship journeys, but more about how Pakira is actually disrupting the lumber and commodities markets. And as a real estate developer, this was an interesting conversation for me. So I look forward to bringing it to you, and I hope you enjoy the interview. This is going to be interesting. So you and I obviously went to high school together. Lost contact, but stumbled upon you on LinkedIn, and I was like, man, Andrew's doing some interesting stuff. He is. Now I'm in the development industry, working with contractors, construction. I saw he's doing stuff with lumber trading. Seems like what he's doing is kind of innovative, and one of the things that really interests me is how inefficient the building industry is historically and how resistant it is to change. So I said, I'm always excited to see people who are kind of breaking that cycle. So anyway, Andrew, happy to chat with you. You want to give a little bit of a background, kind of introduction, tell people about yourself, and just what are you doing that's kind of unique?
Yeah, well, Matt, first, thanks for having me on here in the first place. And speaking of people doing innovative things, I love seeing guys just throwing together a podcast, just saying, hey, let's put ourselves out there, let's put something out there. You're also a guy doing some.
Well, if you don't start, it won't happen. So that was just kind of it. Is bring interesting people on to chat with them, and it makes it a whole lot easier. So.
Yeah, speaking of which, I find LinkedIn is a fascinating place where there's tons of cool stuff going on right now.
Yeah.
So you'd asked a little bit about me. Yeah, so I just founded a company called Pakira.com. Anyone listening right now can just go Pakira.com, check it out for yourself. But what we do, we're mostly a business platform for the wholesale wood industry. But we have our eyes on all commodities. Because the way we see it, if you look around, everything from the clothes we wear to the homes we're in were once these raw commodities in the ground. Mm-hmm. And that whole process, talking about inefficiency, that industry hasn't changed since the 80s. And so how we bring products to market since the long distance phone call came around, there hasn't really been real serious innovation happening in the delivery of goods to market. So, we're a company and we're bringing this industry online, really. We're bringing all of the companies across the process from the forest land all the way to the retailer and the builder. We're bringing all those people online into one place together. And then we're kind of by the industry, for the industry, building technology for the industry on this platform.
So really, from start to finish, you're creating a platform or an exchange where folks at the maybe not necessarily the end user, but folks further down in the supply chain can actually interact with those that are helping to deliver that product to market.
Yeah, absolutely. We're an open place for everybody in the industry, and so we look at the industry not only in silos between builders and where you're buying from, but we view the whole industry from seedling in the ground to stick going into building, for example, when we're talking about wood. And then we bring all of those people into one place. And so for the first time, a lot of these people, if you're a builder, you might be able to talk to a forester or a logger as well, because we have a forum where all these people come together, and you can start seeing all these people kind of engaging and interacting, kind of similar to LinkedIn, but we bring all the people on LinkedIn into one place. And then they all start kind of talking and engaging. And what I really love about it is the lumber industry, for example, is dominated by the narrative is what's happening at the mill. But the industry is so much bigger than that. Mm-hmm. And so we're trying to highlight what's happening elsewhere. Honestly, the builders drive the industry, and yet they have no voice.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited about Pakira because it's a chance to give, everyone a voice. we amplify people's voices across the industry. Once you get everyone together, everyone has the same voice. You can all come up. If because the thing I want to do is I want to get that retailer's perspective on the market. Where do they think they're going? Are you buying for your project early, or are you waiting a bit longer? Because guys in the middle, they want to know that as well as the traders and manufacturers all in the middle. And so, yeah, we're a place for everybody in the industry to come together.
Well, so how did you, I guess, I realized the construction industry was inefficient because, when I got into development, I thought, man, they're so to give a little bit of perspective. I mean, the last 2 years, things have been going crazy. We have an affordability crisis on the back end. We have a supply chain crisis kind of, at the beginning or the middle, depending on how you look at it. And then we got it's topic for a different day, but we got an interest rate crisis that's driving some of this unsustainable growth and some of these issues that are reverberating across the industry. But the reason that I say that is because it wasn't until I got into the development industry that I realized how inefficient construction is. And I started, the construction lobbies. Think about Pakira and then them going out of business and how much pushback there was against modular building. Now, how much pushback there is against 3D homes and some of those sorts of things. So I realized when I got into the business how inefficient it was. But I mean, how did you? I mean, what's your background? Like, how did you get into entrepreneurship? I mean, it's why did you decide that you want to? I mean, man, it's a sacrifice. You're putting 18, 20 hours a day into this thing, and you're probably not paying yourself for the first couple of years. You got to be passionate about it. So I mean,
why do something eye open to eye shut? But how I got here, I'd say I stumbled into it, as we do in life, following our passions, right? And what gets us interested. Similar to you, I kind of bumped into this industry and I went, oh my God. Everyone was pushing back from me entering this industry, first off, when I first went in, because they're like, why is a guy like you who's actually interested in the industry coming in? When I first started, I started as a trader in the industry. That's really when I started cutting my teeth, talking to people, and they'd be like, I would be talking to them like a nerd, like excited about how inefficient the market was. It's like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
The way you guys go about things. You're making all these phone calls, and they were like, why? Like they couldn't get it. A lot of people kind of were either born into the industry or kind of stumbled into it. But I found myself just infatuated with all of the nuance, all of the details. I found myself kind of just falling in love with it right out of college. So to answer your question, though, I'll take it a little bit farther back. The entrepreneurship journey. How did I get here?
Because not many people want to challenge the status quo, and people who don't want to challenge it hate those who want to challenge it even more, because you're shaking up the honeypot. What's been profitable to these guys? All of a sudden, you're coming in and you're saying, "Man, let me disrupt this because there's a better way to serve the trading and the lumber and the commodities community that's happening. So I'm going to change it."
Yeah, and first off, before I get to the last question I had, just to quickly address what you had just mentioned, my whole philosophy in coming at this, I recognize I'm a really young guy. I worked in the industry a little bit, not nearly long enough to know everything, not nearly enough to know that I know better than everybody else. So the first thing I'm doing when I'm coming into the market is I'm saying everyone else out there, they know what's best. I'm never going to come into an engagement, an interaction with someone and say, I know how to run your business better than you. Everyone out there, I think, has run their businesses very well, but they're dealing with the issues they're using what's at their disposal. And so my approach is, how can I improve what's at people's disposal already? And so that's my kind of angle at it. And I came in and I found myself so frustrated with the whole process. And I found myself, making 50 to 100 phone calls a day when I was coming in, just to get to some receptionist. and then call upon this guy, tried to call him for 2 months to find out, hey, do you buy what I sell? And then no, he doesn't buy what I sell. You know, I've been working this account for months just to find out it's a dead end. I was like, if I could just look this up, I would be so much simpler.
Yeah.
Right. And so our solutions are typically around that angle. But taking it back to how did I get here? It all actually started with textbooks, believe it or not. Back when I was in college, I was learning about, I came in, I didn't know anything. I didn't come from my means in my life. So I had never learned about anything about business. I didn't know like up from down. I came in, I went to business school, and I just was blown away. I found out people can buy and sell companies. I was like that. I was like, what is this? I was like, how does that work? So growing up, I just assumed I had no idea about anything. So,
well, and also to put it in perspective for people, I mean, we grew up in a hometown of, 13,000 people, like one stoplight. I moved away. I'm 30 now, I guess 18, 12 years ago. I don't think the population's grown or even changed at all. So anyway, so it's like, it's there's a whole lot more world out there that we had to try to stumble into.
Yeah, I found myself stumbling into it. And as soon as I learned about businesses, I found myself just infatuated, talking to different, business types out there. I was like, this is for me. I could just feel it. And then I went out, and one night I was trying to get some beer money for my textbooks I had at the end of the semester, as one does. And I remember going up, and I saw this line going around the block by a U-Haul truck. And I was like, they're like, that's where you sell your textbooks. And I was like, what? So I went over this U-Haul truck, and these guys were just shelling out money out of the back of this U-Haul truck, buying up textbooks. And I was like, what the hell are you guys doing? And I learned their whole business model is kind of like direct to consumer meets, digitally enabled textbook company. So they were going online, they would scan an ISBN, like the barcode, and then they'd find the best price online. And then they would then purchase it, and then they would kind of offer a down margin on that. So they'd sell it to you for a little bit less than they could sell it to somebody else. And they were just turning through these books doing that. And I was like, oh my God. So I talked to these guys, and I said, well, I just learned you can buy a business. So like, what do you want for this? And I just became friends with the guys, and they sold it to me for like $200.
Oh man, shoot. That's awesome. So you actually went and bought this textbook business.
Yeah. After I learned that. And, anyways, the business was doing so well, they ended up shutting it down. The town did, because it was putting the local bookstore out of business. So there.
I was going to say naturally, yeah. When you start to grow, you start to scale. I mean, there's it's that honeypot. It's that status quo. The bureaucrats of the local government's going to realize, man, this guy, we need to get ours. So that's
exactly
funny, but it's not funny. So yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, but this is the way it goes. It was a blessing though, because what it made me realize was that I'll put it this way. At the time, I said, all right, am I really going to be selling textbooks? Textbooks were kind of a dying industry. I was like, I'm not going to be able to make a whole career on this. I could try my best, but I was studying quantitative finance at the time, and I was working at Morgan Stanley. I wanted to go work in like a trading job. I was doing it with textbooks. I was like, this is really fun. And trading to me was like futures and finance, right? It was like Wall Street. And so I was looking around at commodities trading jobs, and the first one I took was one in New Hampshire, because I was going to school at UNH. And I was like, a commodities trading job in New Hampshire. So I took it. I went in, and it wasn't anything like I was expecting. I was expecting orders happening on the millisecond, all this. It was a trading floor that looked like something out of the 80s, right? It was 30 or 40 guys on a floor, and they all had phones. They're all making, 50 to 100 phone calls a day, all operating off of they all had like a whiteboard. They're listing all their inventory they had up. Everyone's all sticky notes and screaming at each other from across the floor. And at the end of each phone call, a truckload or a train car of lumber would be passing across the country or around the world. And it blew my mind. And that's where I got really interested. That's where I got fascinated. That's where I was like, wait, there's bigger markets than textbooks out there, right? Maybe I could do a similar, maybe we could find a way to bring technology to an industry, um, bigger than textbooks, and maybe we could do it here. Um, and so I went in and began talking and took the job as a commodities trader, and kind of the rest is history. Um,
Well, so it kind of leads me into the question, which I think is kind of central to what we're talking about. You talked about it a little bit, but what I guess what makes the lumber and commodities industries so inefficient? So obviously, you did it was siloed. I mean, you had an office with 30 or 40 brokers that were, burning the phones up, trying to figure out, hey, I mean, that story you used, trying to, work in an account for 2 months. Hey, are you buying the product that I'm selling? Is that even the case? But I guess explain how it's efficient. Because that's going to lead right into the kind of the important thing I want to talk to you is, man, how does Pakira, how do they solve that?
yeah. So I think that at the root of most of it is the core infrastructure of most commodity markets around the world. Doesn't matter if it's uh, lumber or elsewhere, but speaking on lumber, it's all telephone based,
Hmm.
right? And to this day, and that infrastructure really hasn't changed since the 80s. And at the root of it, it's all relationship based, which I think is good. And I don't think that's ever going to go away. I think that's why this industry hasn't changed since the 80s, because you have to have a real relationship. This industry is inefficient because it's very complex, and you need
Hmm.
very smart people who really know their business and are very well experienced to know how to handle it, right? And you need a relationship to back that up, because there's only so much you can kind of put into a contract, put into a deal. At the end of the day, I need to know that Matt's going to take care of me, and that
Hmm.
if Matt gives me his word, he's going to deliver on it, right? And he's going to know some of the baked-in assumptions of what exactly I might be looking for in an order and what I'm not. And if I get something that's not exactly as I would like it, then I know that Matt's going to take care of me. I know that the guy who I'm dealing with is going to take care of me in my business, and it's not just some, you know, kind of bottom feeder, race to the bottom type of business.
Hmm.
It's a business where everybody's looking out for each other's best interests.
Hmm.
Because in this supply chain where everyone's kind of dealing in products all in the middle, everybody needs each other. It's a very small industry, and that's what matters most. And so that's why it's been so inefficient. And what that leads to is a lot of people, no real technology has been able to come in to really replace that. A lot of the technology that comes out is marketplaces, right? It's race to the bottom. I list my product up. I don't know who I'm going to sell it to, and I don't know who I just sold it to. And a lot of the issues is, the wrong product gets shipped, or it's moldy, or the truck's driving and it rains.
Yeah.
And you got moldy product that's arriving. It didn't put a tarp on it, or all these little details. Um, and
There's
so
no
that's
there's no
yeah,
quality control because it's those marketplaces are a little bit more peer to peer. Is that kind of, I mean, that's one of the issues?
yeah, yeah. So I mean, that's one of the issues why I mean, my belief why a lot of them didn't work out. I tested when I was in the company before I started Pakira. I tested every technology that was out there. I talked to people who are using them. People who left us to use technology, and then why did they come back afterwards? What was their experience? A lot of it was exactly that. It was quality issues. It was customer service issues. Um, People really want to deal with another person, and so the reason the industry is so inefficient, is a lot of times because it's as efficient as it can be
Hmm.
given the products, and nothing's really come out that can take the industry as it is and then amplify the value of the players. A
Hmm.
lot of the other solutions are trying to change the way people do business today, and I don't think anything like that's going to work, because the way it's done today is really impressive. And you have to give respect to the way business is done today, and you have to come at it with a solution that says, how is business done today, and how can we more efficiently do it tomorrow? um,
So then I guess understanding some of the, so it's a relationship, it's a relationship based business that's
Hmm.
not changing. And honestly,
Hmm.
there are good, there's and you touched on it, there's good and bad because of that. But then how is Kira, how are they, how are you solving for some of those shortcomings in the industry, and to talk a little bit about your platform and how you're solving for some of those challenges.
Yeah, first off, we view ourselves as just pretty simply a technology provider, first and foremost.
Hmm.
And we view ourselves as people offering a service to the industry. And we want to really be built by the industry for the industry. So every solution that we come up with, we're talking to people all across the supply chain. Like we were saying before, from the forester to the retailer, the mills, manufacturers, and traders in between. We're talking to everybody before we come out with anything. And what we found is that there's a need for a neutral third party platform, that's not owned by any of the players, that doesn't have any bias kind of implicit to it, and it's capable of hosting everybody on the market at once, right? And then we need to be able to then take the value that's created by all the players in the market, and we need to then be able to kind of amplify that. So we're not. Well, I'm saying, Wes, what do I mean by that? Right? We're not. Don't cut people out. Don't be a platform. Recognize how each player is creating value, and then how can we amplify the way that person is creating value. So what does that really mean? We are not changing the way business is done today. First and foremost, that's one of our biggest goals. What we try to do is every solution we come up with, we try to say, okay, what are people doing today, and how can we make that more efficient? So if you go to Pakira.com right now, you'll see it has a forum that's up. People are already putting news out there, already talking about the market. So we said, great, give people a place to do that.
Hmm.
Going forward, we're going to have the world's biggest directory that's coming out for lumber products. Why are we doing that? Everyone's already going out prospecting. Everyone's already trying to grow their businesses by making 50 to 100 phone calls a day every day. So why don't we use technology and some of the best data scientists in the world to then build these directories that brings everybody who's buying and selling wood online. And then we give people the ability to update their own profiles on here so that I can list what products I'm buying and selling. And then all of a sudden, that process where it used to be calling up somebody, fighting a receptionist, talking to a guy for 2 months to find out what he buys and sells. Now I can just search it through the directory, right? It makes things a lot more efficient.
I'll tell you, it sounds like one of the beauties of the product is you're not, um, there's typically a lot of resistance to early adopters, especially if you're changing the way people do business, but you're not, and you touched on that. And what you're actually doing is you're just acting as an enabler to be able to bring these disjointed parties throughout the entirety of the supply chain to give them a forum to be able to discuss these ideas, to add value to those wholesalers and to those mills. And
here, 1 second, let me shut off Slack here. Oh my goodness. Yes, and so that's exactly it. We are we're trying not to be disruptive, right?
yeah,
We want to fit seamlessly into the way people are doing business today.
yeah,
We want to be a smooth transition. We don't want people to be changing the way they're doing business. We want to take the way that they're doing it because we're doing it well, and say, hey, here is a way to be doing what you're doing already, but better, right? And the most important thing is humbling ourselves down to say, okay, well, what are people doing today? Why is it being done today? Instead of immediately assuming, oh, it's inefficient, needs to change. Really sit down and talk to everybody. So one of the only companies that we're really sitting down with each of these players. Before we launched this forum, we talked to over 250 companies. At least 10 to 15 of them from each position in the supply chain to then learn what people are looking for, what they want. And that's what we came up with. We don't want to have anything that's encroaching on people's businesses. First and foremost, we want to be able to come up with something that's not going to be cutting people out, not going to be disruptive. We want to be able to grow businesses where we can and not, all of a sudden be disruptive. Of course, there's going to be winners and losers given any change. You cannot avoid disruption, but we want to be as smooth as transition as possible.
So as I'm thinking about it from my context, so as a developer, I'm not building anything myself. Maybe I'm going in and maybe I'm developing 50 to 100 lots, and I'm going and finding a couple of builders on the back end that might be interested in a project like that. So that's kind of the world that I understand. But who really should be listening? I mean, who can benefit? Obviously, you're offering a service that I think anyone in the supply chain can really benefit from. But is it at what scale are you talking about? Is it something that the one-off custom home builder would really find value in? Is it some of the larger suppliers, the larger general contractors who really should be listening and who can, I think, kind of find some value in what you guys are doing?
I think anyone interested in the wood industry should be listening. Even if you're Matt, all the way down to if you have a project coming up your back porch and you want to know, whether you should be buying wood for that project now or later, or pushing that project down the line.
Yeah.
Have various. We're building a full platform, and part of this is serving the largest aspects of the industry. People are buying and selling in the train car quantity, but really we're scaling it all the way down with our solutions. Given that we're really building an online community first, that's applicable to just about anybody who touches a 2x4, right? So what we have, so for example, a lot of your audience is builders. Builders can really benefit. They can become members of Pakira. We're building a community online for everyone in the wood industry. And right now we have a product. You should go to Pakira.com. It's the Pakira Wood Forum. And you can track the lumber market. And, right now, if you're trying to keep track of lumber prices, it might be making your head spin.
Yeah.
We're approaching, if not, it looks like we're at all-time high prices today. And so what's driving this? What is going behind this market here? You said I had the ability to screen share?
Yeah. You should be able to.
Yeah, here. So here on the forum, I'll see if I can zoom in some. We have people talking and posting about what they're seeing in the industry all the time. And you can just come here and say, okay, well, where is the market at today? And Billy posts every morning. He talks about the activity happening in the market today. And you can start to get a sense of where exactly is the market going. If you're a builder, this might not impact you right away. But when the market swings and the market turns and you want to stay ahead of that, stay ahead of your competition, it's going to be really good to know that the market has swung when it has. We also have lumber futures right over here, as well as all the other economic housing data, from its housing starts to what have you. This is publicly available information. The forum itself is also sorted by whatever industry you might be interested in. Where you're looking to, what are people talking about plywood right now? You can come in and then you can see what the conversations are happening around the plywood markets right now. And you can read this as just a consumer. You can then create an account and be contributing. If you come on here, you can talk to any of these guys right now. They'd be very receptive. If you say, hey, I have a project coming up, I'm going to need to buy a lot of wood for it. Should I buy it right now at all-time high prices, or should I wait a couple months? We have people on here who believe, the market might be peaking. Actually, I haven't heard that voice too much. We have voices on here actually that are talking about prices going to $2,000 per thousand, and right now it's at $1,300. Whether it actually gets there, I don't know about that. That's worth the discussion, but that's the discussion that's happening here, right? And
Yeah.
so if you want to know where the lumber market might be going, this is a really good place to be turning to. So I think it's good for anybody, even if you're just a lumber nerd and you just want to read about it, because commodity markets, get your wheels going. This is for you.
Where do you, and we'll wrap up in a couple of minutes. I appreciate the time, but where do you see the future of Pakira? So you right now you're a forum, and there's a lot of discussion happening there. I heard you mention your goal is to build the world's largest directory. I mean, what do you Andrew, I guess the entrepreneur, obviously from textbooks to commodities, and now who knows where you're planning on taking this. But 5-10 years, what sorts of value do you look to? What are you looking? What kind of value are you looking to bring? Where do you see the future?
Yeah, so I'll answer that short term, long term, right? Short term, I guess we'd have two phases. I would say short term, medium term, long term.
Okay.
Right? So short term, we're talking week by week. This week, this forum, we're coming out with a chat. So we'll now have not only a forum, but you'll have the ability to talk one-on-one with people on the forum.
That's awesome.
And then after that, we had talked about building the world's largest directory. That's already built, and that will be out. I can't give a date exactly when that's done, but it's already built out, and that will be in the very near term coming out. And then people, for the first time, the ability to come on, list the products that they buy and sell, and it's really should be a game changer. So that will be coming out in the very near term. Medium term.
And I don't mean to interrupt you, but then so that will almost serve as an exchange. I mean, I could go direct to Andrew, can post, hey man, I'm selling, a train car of 2x4s, and Matt comes along. Matt says, man, yeah, I need a train car. Let's make a deal. I mean, is that the vision?
Yeah. Well, so that can be done in the short term. Yeah. And then in the medium term, I'll play it this way. We're building a community first, and that's our short term. That's where we're at. We're building community first. We're building relationships first, because that's where the industry's at, right? It's a relationship first industry. That said, with the chat and connecting all these people, yeah, absolutely. Marketplace dynamics can start flowing. You can start dealing. The industry's done over the phone today. You can start using our chat and dealing with us immediately. That right away, you can start working in Pakira as you would in the rest of the market. Whether you're doing some deals online, some deals over the phone, some deals via Pakira. Great. In the medium term, this is when we start working with a lot of people in the industry to say, well, what do you guys want? How can we help you? And so what we're hearing there is that people want, within this chat, they're going to want to be built in various functions. We won't get into the details of what a lot of those functions are, but a lot of people right now are having a hard time putting orders together and then getting those orders delivered to customers, right? So how can we then help you build an order and help you connect to people who can get that product delivered? How can you open up a new customer and get new financing on that so that you can immediately start transacting and doing new business with somebody? How can we be de-risking each of these? So that's kind of our medium term. So to answer your question, yes, you could immediately start using this in the near term, and we're going to be amplifying that into kind of the medium term. But you had asked about 5 to 10 years. Yeah. We want to take Pakira, and not only do we want to be industry focused here within wholesale wood, but we'd then really like to take it beyond wholesale wood. We would like it to take this solution that we believe would work in this industry and then begin applying it to other commodity verticals. So close cousin to, so we'll then I won't go into exactly what markets we're looking at, but that's where we would like to take this.
Yeah, and I'm not holding you to this, but I it's something that actually find really fascinating is people that are innovators, people that are grinders, people that are trying to solve industry-wide problems. Where do they see themselves or their business in 5 or 10 years? So it's always kind of fascinating because none of us are stagnant. We can't be stagnant. I was having a conversation. I actually think it was my brother. We were talking about the metaverse, and man, metaverse is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And he's actually younger, so he should be a little bit more in tune with this than I am. But I was like, well, I don't necessarily disagree with you, but there are people in my industry, there are developers who are spending millions and millions of dollars on virtual land. And folks like, I just heard a story about someone putting in a virtual car garage in the metaverse. I was like, man, what is your virtual car breaking down? Do I need to go get this thing fixed? But so it doesn't make sense to me per se, at least on a personal level. But if that's the way the world's headed, then we need to figure out ways to get ahead of that, to solve some of these problems. So it just I'm always fascinated by big thinkers, and I like asking that question, man. Yeah, where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years? So certainly not going to hold you to it, but if you can solve industry-wide problems with Pakira in the lumber industry, why not in other commodities?
Yeah, that's that's the question. We talk to people in various other commodities, and they seem to all have the same issues, and it's very common. The thing that surprises me, is pretty much every industry. If you want to get a price on lumber, it's all relying on people picking up a phone and calling various people to say, "Hey, what are you buying and selling that today?" and then reporting some price. Like it definitely seems like there's room for innovation across various commodities. It's impossible to understand, what's a good price delivered to Boston today on any product. Mm-hmm. The thing that gets me is if we were able to accomplish that vision, to bring these commodity markets online. This is a $20 trillion industry.
Yeah.
Right. This impacts every person's life. Like everyone around, like these commodities build the world around us.
Yeah.
I don't see any other way where you could have an impact on every person alive today. But if we accomplish this, then that is a possibility. Could have, and not only that, I view it as an opportunity to bring countries, to bring nations, bring people, out of poverty. So that if a person in one country can then be selling their product to people in other countries, it can really grow. Not only that, domestically, if I can help the young startup here, lumber company, turn to Pakira and grow their business, you can then be leveraging and changing lives in this way. It gets me very excited.
No, you're not being hyperbolic. Yeah, you're not being hyperbolic. You really are providing you're leveling the playing field. You're providing a forum where startup startup can interact with the big players who can interact with singular folks in other parts of the world. It really is. It's kind of fascinating, and I think it's important stuff you're doing. Now, I want to ask you one last question. So if I listening to this, if I'm someone that it sounds interesting, or I want to learn a little bit more about it, or I think I might be able to find value, how can I go about signing up? What's it going to cost me? And what for me as the end user, what does the experience look like if it's something I'm interested in?
So it's easy. So you just go to Pakira.com, Pakira.com, and you just click the join button. And how much does it cost? It's free, right? We're first and foremost, we're interested in, we're not putting our skis ahead of ourselves. We really want to become adopted into the industry and prove our worth before we ask anything of people in the industry. So if you want to get involved, you want to get in the process, the best way to do that is to reach out to me. Just send me an email, Andrew@Pakira.com. Find me on LinkedIn. I'm there all the time posting.
There you are.
Just Andrew Gibson. Yeah, yeah. And so I'm very easy, very accessible. And when I say this, I cannot emphasize this enough. We are built by the industry for the industry. And if someone out there has a vision, our vision is your vision. Right. If someone out there has an idea of what they would like to see in the market, man, I have poured my blood, sweat, and tears out to just build a company that's capable of building technology. Now, just come to me and say, this should be built. And this is what we've come out to build. I've built a team. It's not me. I'm the dumb one on the team. So you don't have to worry about that. We have these very smart people who are the engineers and developers, and they're all equally as excited to go build this technology. We're building a council for people all across the industry. So if you really want to become involved, you can come in and just talk to me one-on-one. You could come on, join our council of advisors of people in the industry. We'd be interested in having a builder on there. What is the builder's perspective? If you get really excited about this, you can go further. You can create your own channel. So on the forum, as I'd shown, there's many different channels, whether it's lumber or plywood. Create your own, because sometimes people out there might not want to share, a builder, and it might kind of be intimidating to talk about these markets. And you might go to talk to people, you don't know who to trust. Everyone talks their position. If you're buying from a guy, of course he's going to tell you to buy it.
Yeah.
So maybe you want to create a private channel. Some people do on it, because you offer this thing. It's called private channels, where you can create a private group where people can talk about the market together. And you can be sharing and discussing, and fill it full of people who you trust. You begin reaching out. So that'll be some of the ways. Just spread the word. Let other people know about it. That's our whole thing. Is we're here to grow. We're here to get some critical mass on the platform. We're still a startup. We just launched this thing. So we got a long way to go. So please comment, share anything you find on us online. It's all helpful.
Well, I know that wasn't a sales pitch, but or your passion about it is enough. That's, I don't know, it fires me up. You know what I mean?
Good.
You don't need to. No, I'm now that I understand a little bit more about it. There's going to be value for me as a real estate developer, understanding. Yeah. So I'm hopping on after we're done here. I'm going to hop on and I'm going to see what the discussion's about, because really I at first I thought, well, maybe me as a developer, if I don't necessarily have my hands in the construction process, there might not be a ton of value. There absolutely is, because the sales cycle on these projects is you know what I mean? So it matters to me where lumber is going to be in 3, 6, 12 months. And it matters to builders, and it matters to me as far as, are builders going to continue to ramp up production? Do I need to keep delivering lots? How's this going to matter for me when I try to back into a price for a developed lot? It has implications for my business completely. So I'm sold. And
obviously I started this off. I was like, I don't want to sell anybody. I don't know if I can't help it sometimes. So, but
no. Yeah.
And so that gets me so excited too, because even if it's not talking about buying and selling wood, there's also interesting trends. Like we really want to be the center for also education. So if you ever want to learn about anything, whether it's what you're doing, so if it's how to get started in the industry, how the industry works, all of these things, we want people to come on, just tell us a little bit about what you do. We also have a section on here just called Welcome to Pakira. We call it the pub, where people talk offline about things and just tell us your story, where people just share their stories, how they got involved in the industry. We also have people talking about trends. So we have people talking about, say, like mass timber is one of them. So there's this cool projects going up all the time. We were talking about modular building earlier. There's also this trend in mass timber, and it's okay. So we have architects coming out there, who are coming on and saying, hey, this is what we're hearing out there. This is the new specs. This is where the future of the industry might be going, towards a modular building, towards these mass timber projects. What's happening there? And, whether it's trends within forestry, there's this huge sequestration topic right now of how building with wood might be able to save the planet. How can we get that message out there? And so yeah, we got a lot of irons in the fire. You just got to find one that interests you, and
Well, that's
keep banging on it with us.
exactly. I mean, you got something for everyone on there. So, well, man, I really appreciate it. This was fascinating. Obviously, to give people some insight, you and I had chatted
Yep.
um, a couple of times over the last few months, and you had explained to me what you did, and I thought, man, this sounds fascinating. But even like I'm actually learning a ton as part of this. This isn't just this wasn't merely a formality to kind of codify the conversations we've been having over the last couple of weeks. So this has actually been edifying. So I really appreciate you taking some time. I don't know if you have anything else to plug. Obviously, Pakira.com is the big one. You're Andrew. You're on
Yeah,
LinkedIn.
I mean, the only other thing is I work with Big Brothers Big Sisters.
Yeah.
If anyone out there, imagine. I'll wrap this up. I'm here where I am because I had a mentor in my life who kind of pushed me, and the guy who pushed me, he was the reason I went to go become a commodities trader. Right? He then challenged me to go chase whoever it was, and I can't imagine where I would be. And but I work with Big Brothers Big Sisters. Anyone out there? We have a huge backlog. There's thousands of young boys out there who have no men in their lives. Young women as well who have no one else. But there's a massive backlog of boys, and I assume builders are big, mostly men. So anyone out there, please look up Big Brothers Big Sisters. Put in your area, and if you have some spare time, please go out and consider, once a week giving back to your community. There's a young kid out there who's just dying for a male role model in their life. So that's the only other plug I would possibly have.
Well, that's a whole lot. It's a whole lot more important than any plug you or I could give about our business. So no, I appreciate that. That was nice. All right. Well, go ahead.
Thanks for your interest, Matt.
Yeah. No, seriously. It's like I said. It's been fascinating, and appreciate you taking the time. Nice to chat.